Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Allah has provided everything for us. He has provided the freedom that is our life. He's provided our soul. He's provided our body. And He's given us the wisdom to understand that which is godly and that which is satanic, that which is positive for us and that which is negative for us. He's given us the ability to be at one with the rest of humanity, but He has also given us the ability to be separate from the rest of humanity. And He's given us the difference, the wisdom to know the difference. The world is a prayer mat, but the world is also a place of sacrifice. So we have to choose which world we live in. Do we live in the world of unity, or do we live in the world of separation? Do we live in the world of inclusiveness, or do we live in the world of exclusivity? Man has the wisdom to join, but he also has the ability to separate himself. Revenge, vanity, pride hide wisdom. Arrogance, karma, and Maya cannot smell their own filth. We have to understand these things, and we have to make choices. You see, from a very, very practical point of view, we determine the direction that we go. And we should be cognizant of the fact that we determine the direction that we go. What is fate? Fate is the accumulation of the qualities that we've taken on. So, in other words, we form our own destiny. We form our own fate. We form our own direction. We form where we're going, and we determine where not to go. So, if we are making these determinations, if we are deciding which way to go, that means we must do an analysis of what is appropriate and what is inappropriate. There are constantly choices for us to make. And the question is, what are the choices that we make? Man has a tendency to forget. Man has a tendency to forget his unity and drift off into separation, drift off into being different, drift off into not maintaining unity. It takes effort to maintain unity, and we have to constantly make this effort if we're going to maintain it. It also means that we have to be conscious of it. We have to be conscious of our state. Are we in a state that is abhorrent to us, or are we in a state that is appropriate for us? Are we in a state of love, or are we in a state of separation? Are we in a state of justice, or are we in a state where we separate justice for those we include in our group and separate justice from those who aren't in our group. We have to learn to become small. We have to learn not to take things to be too serious and not to have to involve ourselves with everything that comes in our direction. Truth is difficult to maintain, but we have to maintain it. Justice is difficult to maintain, but we have to maintain it. We have to find an equilibrium within us where justice is part of who we are, where loving kindness is part of who we are. And we have to find a consistency in these things where we stay with them and we don't allow that state to drift away from us. In the ocean, there is a vast amount of space. And in the ocean, there is a vast amount of food. Yet fish are constantly eating each other, and there's no need for it. There's plenty of food that's supplied, yet they eat each other. It's like that in the world. As we create separations, as we create distance between ourselves and others, as we do this individually and as a society, conflicts occur. Conflicts occur because of separations. And when conflicts occur, we begin to believe that we must be the victor in these conflicts, or else there will be some sort of difficulty for us. So as soon as separations happen, other things happen. Jealousy happens, enmity happens, the need for other people's stuff happens. We need to control. We need to be able to control those we are separate from, because we become afraid of them because of the separation. And when fear enters into the equation, reactions to fear enter into the equation. A little boy just walked up to a house and rang the bell. This happened about 10 days ago, somewhere in the US. The man behind the door was afraid, shot through the door. He didn't kill him, but he injured him pretty well. It happened out of fear. It happened out of separation. The man on the other side of the door saw himself as different than the little boy who had gone to the wrong address and rang the bell. We are constantly facing these kinds of situations. We are constantly facing the differences of religions, of languages, of color, of nationalities. And if we give importance to these differences, then we overlook the sameness that occurs. And in truth, we have so much in common. We all have the same internal mechanisms. We all have the same organs. We all have flesh. We all have so many things that each of us has. Each of us has a soul. Each of us has a body. Each of us is made up of the elements. Yet we choose to look at the superficial differences that we have taken on. We choose to look at the differences in our religions. We choose to look at the differences in the color of our skin. We choose to look at the differences in the languages that we speak. We choose to look at the different parts of the world we come from. And we create distinctions in these differences that are enough to begin wars about. Look at the conflicts that are going on in the world right now. And in some areas, the people on both sides of the conflict look exactly alike. Russia and Ukraine, you can't tell the difference between these people, yet they speak different languages, and one seems to be intimidated by the fact that the other one exists and needs to control them in order to feel secure. Where do these feelings come from? They come from vanity. They come from pride. They come from an overwhelming sense of, I am more important than you are, and I have to control your destiny. I have to control your place. I have to control my relationship with you. This begins at the lowest levels. This begins with interaction between two people. This begins with the interaction between a husband and wife. This begins with the interaction between friends. There are husbands who need to control their wives, or they feel inadequate. There are wives who need to control their husbands, or they feel inadequate. There are friendships where people absolutely have to control the friendship and have to have everything go their way, or else the friendship will dissipate and there will become difficulty. Well, nations act in the same way individuals act. And we as individuals have to ask ourselves some simplistic questions. Everybody wants to be peaceful. Everybody wants to be content. Everybody wants to be serene. And we have to ask ourselves, what is it that makes us content? What is it that makes us peaceful? What is it that makes us serene? Now, this world is full of ignorance. And for some people, the answer to what will make us content is to conquer our neighbor. For some people, they think what will make us serene is to control our neighbor or to control others. In truth, these things cannot make us serene. These things eat us up. So as we try to destroy others in order for ourselves to find peace, we don't find peace in this way. What we end up doing is eating ourselves up from the inside. The qualities that we manifest and push towards others are the qualities that we have inside of ourselves. So if we are destroying things on the outside, that quality is coming from inside of us. And that same quality that's trying to destroy things on the outside is destroying things on the inside. These things originate in the mind, and the mind brings them out into action, and then we strike. But as we strike externally, we also strike internally. From mind comes the action, and action becomes or can be destructive in the world. And when action is destructive in the world, it's also destructive internally. And when love is generated from us towards others, we also generate love towards ourselves. So if we love our neighbor, we heal ourselves. If we hate our neighbor, we hurt ourselves. Every emotion, every quality, every way that we act externally has an effect and an impact on us internally. And if that action is meant to somehow destroy what's around us or control what's around us. What happens is it creates a poison inside of ourselves that does the same thing to us that we are trying to do to others. So we can either create a poison inside of ourselves, or we can create a salve inside of ourselves, a medicine inside of ourselves. Arrogance is a disease. The need for power is a disease. The need for fame is a disease. And just as physical diseases harm our being, these mental aspirations harm our being. Love is a cure. Love cures others and it cures ourselves. And as we cure others, we become cured. So we have to look at ourselves. And this path requires a constant examination and re-examination of the self. What are the qualities that we carry? Where do they take us? What is their intention? And if their intention is other than the unification and brotherhood of man, then these qualities and these intentions need to be done away with. They must be stepped on with the foot of truth. They must be stepped on with the foot of reality. They must be stepped on and done away with so they no longer harm others and they no longer harm ourselves. If you treat the world as something to conquer, and you treat the people in the world as something to subjugate to our will, you create hell on earth. But if you learn that the world is meant to be unified, and that men are meant to be unified, and you intend qualities that unify your existence with others, then you can create heaven on this earth. And then there's no difference between this world and the next world, because you are in heaven here and you are in heaven there. But you have to have the qualities of heaven. We have to understand the difference between Satan's qualities and God's qualities. Satan's qualities are meant to separate. God's qualities are meant to unify. There is but one God, and we all come from one mother and father. And all of the prophets came to reestablish this unity among men after man forgot the unity and drifted apart. We come from one mother and father, but now we believe we come from many different mothers and fathers. And we believe that these different mothers and fathers were at odds with each other. And so now we're at odds with others. Religions were not meant to be at odds with other religions. Belief in God was not meant to be at odds with the way other people believe in God. Rituals differ from religion to religion to religion, but the rituals are superficial. What is at the core of things is the belief system. What is at the core of things is the intention. But man has the tendency to take the superficial and make it what's important in existence. And this happens because of ignorance. This happens because they can't see through to the truth. They can't see through to reality. we have to focus on truth. We have to focus on unity. We have to focus on love. And we have to begin to realize that if a philosophy or a religion or a way or an intention doesn't spread love, doesn't spread truth, doesn't embrace other lives, then it is a false teaching. And we have to be able to recognize false teachings. And false teachings will tell you that you are more important than everyone else. True teachings will tell you that there is a unity between all existence and a unity within all mankind. This has to become real for us. And we have been practicing trying to create this reality within us for years and years and years. But there is an enemy out there. And this enemy continues to try and separate us. This enemy gives us reasons for separation. You know, when Jesus was passing, he said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do," which means that diseases exist within men. And we, whoever we are, if we've been fortunate enough to be taught the truth, if we've been fortunate enough to be shown the truth, we can't take that on as if we are knowledgeable now. We have to take that on as the fact that we've been given a gift, and we must try and give this gift to others in the same way that this gift was given to us. We can't now usurp others because we know and they don't know, because we were also ignorant in a time. So our responsibility comes to spread truth. Our responsibility comes to give unto others what has been given unto us. And at all time, keeping the equilibrium of peace and contentment and serenity within us. If you try to help somebody in an angry state, nothing's going to happen. They're certainly not going to be helped. What comes through is not the words of kindness, but the anger that's being displayed. So we need to learn to do away with our anger. We need to learn to do away with our arrogance. We need to learn to do away with all of the qualities that are not from Allah. The question's often asked, what is surrender? How does one surrender? Surrender to God. And the answer is quite simple. Give up everything that's not God, and you've surrendered to God. To create that unity is what surrender is. And to do away with that which isn't contained in that unity is the act of surrender. So if we control our anger, that's an act of surrender. If we control our arrogance, that's an act of surrender. If we control our differences, that's an act of surrender. If we accept other people as we accept ourselves, that's surrender. And that leads to the unity of existence. Everything else leads to separations. So every time we separate ourselves, we are moving away from surrender, and we are moving into establishing the primacy of our own being as opposed to the primacy of Allah, the primacy of our Lord. We have to continuously wash our own being, but not just wash from the outside. We have to wash from the inside. So we have to wash our hearts. There's something known as a qibla. The Qibla is the direction of prayer. And the religions pray in a certain direction. Well, inside the heart, you have to establish a Qibla. And that direction within the heart is the direction towards God. So there was a straight connection between you and God inside your heart, a straight connection between you and reality inside your heart. There is a Qibla inside your heart that you turn to turn to Allah. So we need to turn to God internally. We need to turn to God inside of ourselves. Paradise exists inside of ourselves. Heaven exists inside of ourselves. Hell exists inside of ourselves. Allah has given us the availability of the full spectrum of things. We have to decide what portion of that spectrum we are going to make ours. What portion of what He's given to us are we going to take on as ours? And from that decision, we set an intention. Now, the question is, do we follow through on that intention? Do we act on that intention? Or do we go to sleep on that intention? How cognizant are we of the way that we act? How cognizant are we of Allah's presence with us? The Nasruddin story, where everybody in town is going on a pilgrimage to find God, except Nasruddin, who's staying at home. And then about a half a day later, all of a sudden the people see Nasruddin riding his donkey at full speed coming towards them. And they all say, "Where are you going?" And he said, "I'm looking for my donkey." And they said, "But you're riding your donkey. He's right under you." And they said, and he says to them, "Well, you're all going to look for God. Do you realize where He is? Do you realize that wherever you're going is the same as where you are? That there is no difference? The only difference is in your ignorance, because you haven't yet understood that all places are the same, all places are internal, and all the things that we can do sitting here or sitting there or going here or going there. Everything that we do externally can be done internally and doesn't require movement. You can do pilgrimage inside your heart. And that pilgrimage is to turn from the satanic qualities to the godly qualities. That is the great pilgrimage. That is the great movement. We're all talking about Eid right now, which means celebration. What is the true celebration? The true celebration is when you become cognizant of reality, when you become aware of reality, and when you set the intention to place yourself within reality. And when that intention becomes the driving force in your life, that is the celebration of your life. Sitting down and eating is not a celebration. Sitting down and calling things celebrations doesn't really mean that anything's going on. There's one celebration. There's one birth date. What is your birth date? Your birth date is when you become cognizant of reality. Then you become real. Before that, you aren't here. You're afloat. You're afloat without any recognition of truth. You are lost in ignorance, and you are subject to all of the hallucinations and the magnetisms of the world. You can be pushed and pulled in each and every direction because you don't have a center that guides you towards truth. We have to establish that center within us that guides us towards truth, that is not attracted to the so-called treasures of the world. We have to understand what the true treasures of existence are. Rahman and Rahim, mercy and compassion, are true treasures. Imagine Allah is mercy and compassion. It's his name. And he has given the ability to feel mercy and compassion to his creation. So what is a greater treasure than Allah giving unto us that which he is, that which he feels, that which is his effulgence and his grace? These are available to us. Yet we look for gems in the earth. We look for gold in the earth. We look to own the earth. And of what consequence is owning the earth for us? We can't own illusion. We can't own that which isn't real. We can't own the temporary. And we have to look for what is beyond temporary, what is eternal. Mercy is eternal. Compassion is eternal. Love is eternal. Justice is eternal. God's qualities are eternal. His fragrance is eternal. And if we are meant to be eternal, we have to attach ourselves to those qualities which are eternal. And if we do that in this world, then this world becomes the same as the next world, because the next world is those qualities. The next world is made up of those qualities. Light is those qualities. And if we are to find those while we are here, then we have made the true journey of our existence, and we have accomplished what we were set out for in this world, why we were created, why we were born, why we were made by God. He made us to know him. He made us to know truth. He made us to understand his qualities. He made us of his image, which means his qualities, to become like him. So we have to set that intention, and we have to be very careful to understand what qualities are his and what qualities aren't his. And we have to be very careful that we stay away from the qualities that do not belong to God. Otherwise, Satan will be throwing fishnets out there like they do in the water, and he'll be catching us because we don't have the ability to see the difference. We have to become wise. We have to become wise, and we have to become mature in wisdom. We have to be able to tell the difference between what's good for us and what's not good for us. We have to be able to tell the difference between ignorance and truth. And if we can do that, and if we can stay focused on that, then our path towards reality is easy. If we can't do that, then everything becomes incredibly complex, incredibly complicated, and we constantly fall from the truth. So we have to beg God to give us the insight to understand him and to understand his qualities. We have to beg God to open up our eyes so we're not blinded by the world, but can see through the world to see that which is real. It's available for us. It's possible for us. And it will happen for us if our intention is strong enough, and if our will is strong enough, and if our effort is strong enough in order to accomplish this. We ask Allah to put us on the straight path, but we also have to join in that effort. we also have to work to be on the straight path. Allah loves effort, and we have to constantly put forth effort towards the unity of existence and towards our unity with the rest of humanity. It's in that unity that we will find truth and we will find our salvation. So may it come to pass that we all understand this truth and we all participate in this truth and we all find reality and we find this world. In this world, we find the truth of existence, so that the phase of transition from this world to the next world is easy for us because we've lived in the next world in this world. If we can do that, then we've accomplished what God set us out to do. May it happen for each and every one of us. Ameen. Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.